I had to do all of that in order to really step into this new reality in which I live now, designing my life, believing that the best outcome is my outcome. Sometimes you get so wrapped up in the worst thing happening, and the next thing you know, you create that because you never really allow yourself to feel through it because you're afraid to, because you're like, oh my God, I'm going to create it. But you have to feel through it in order to get through it so that you can transmute it. And so that's what I want. Go ahead.
Yeah, because the very thing you're trying to avoid is the very thing you're creating.
Exactly. Every single time.
Welcome to the Rise, Shine, and Redefine podcast, where we explore personal growth, relationships, and transformative mindsets. I'm Caryn Meininger, your guide and ally on this journey. Imagine a space where your true beauty shines, where every challenge is a step toward your best self, and where family and personal development intertwine. As your BFF for Mindset Mastery, I'm here to share insight and laughter, to guide you through the highs and lows, and to celebrate your journey towards authenticity and fulfillment. Join us as we redefine what it means to live beautifully, love our journey, and embrace our true selves. Let's rise, shine, and redefine together.
Welcome back to the Rise, Shine, and Redefine podcast. I am so excited to have a very special guest. She is the founder of Empress Expressions, a soul wisdom coach and a living soul profiler. Amber Nicole is dedicated to empowering women through profound healing and self-discovery. She's journeyed through personal transformation, from being an exceptionally hands-on mother to pioneering her unique path as a mentor and leader in women's empowerment. Her mission is to guide women towards healing, fulfilling their purpose, and designing lives filled with love. Let's get ready to be inspired by her incredible story and insights. Welcome to the show, Amber. I'm so happy to have you here.
I am so happy to be here, Caryn. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I just can't wait to dive into your story and hear about your Empress Expressions business. And you say that you're a living soul profiler. Tell me how you got to this point. How did you come up with Empress Expression and learning about the living soul profiler? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so Empress Expressions has really come a long way. I was really thinking about this before we met, before this meeting, and Empress Expressions really came out of a very pivotal point in my life. I had gone through a divorce. Actually, it was my second divorce. And we had been married for 10 years, together for 11. We have a daughter who is now 4. And when I was younger, I actually had a son, and his father and I were married for a year. So my son now is 14. And so with my second divorce, my second marriage ending, I was just in this very reflective state. And I remember I moved from the town that I was living in and moved to Austin, where my mom lives, and moved me and my kids in with my mom and my brother. And so I did that. I did the single mother sort of thing for a whole year. And it was so difficult. And my mom raised me as a single mother. And I just remember thinking, like, wow, this is wild. Like, this is crazy. And luckily, I had my mom and my brother to help. And both of my children's fathers are super involved. So we always have had a great relationship, but it just still felt very heavy on me. And so I get through that year. And I actually, about 3 years ago, joined a mystery school, a metaphysical school, and really dove into Tantra and became a certified and ordained Tantra practitioner. And so I really was diving into that practice and learning all the things. And just as time went on, through all the things that I was experiencing in my personal life, I was still diving into the Tantra and was like, I was still connecting to different people and connected and came across some different body work. And so as I was learning the body work, which is more of like hands-on versus energy projection, I just kept like there was this thing that was like being conceived inside of me, like it was just this idea that kept brewing and I could feel this thing growing inside of me. And I was like, what, this is going to have a name. Like I'm going to have to put a name to this. I could see this being something that reaches, women across the globe. And in the time of me doing the single mother deal and really starting to look at how I mother and what that was looking like for me in that moment and what I saw my future looking like as a mother. Empress Expressions is still brewing. It's still brewing. This is before I even knew the name. And so, as I'm diving more into the Tantra, as I'm recognizing that I want to be a coach, because I was always into helping people. And even when I was in college, I even took a couple of courses and had a minor in psychology. So it's in me to help. And so, Empress Expressions is brewing and all the things. And I had a moment where, things got pretty heavy and dark for me. And that is where the mothering thing started to come up for me. And I just kept seeing this life that was so different than what I was actually living. And I never saw myself struggling. Like I never saw myself being without or barely making it. And the life that I was currently, or the reality that I was currently experiencing, that's what it felt like. And so from there, Empress Expressions is still brewing within me, not quite having any kind of a brand name or company name or anything like that, business name. And so I was like, well, what kind of a life do you want to live, Amber? Like, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What is the name? And so Goddess came up, and I was like, Goddess is used so much, right? My LLC has Goddess in it. I was like, that's already kind of taken. Then I thought about Queen, and I was like, everybody uses Queen. And then Empress came to me one day in meditation. And I was like, Empress is what it is. Like, Empress feels good. It feels good when it radiates through my body. It feels good when it comes out of my mouth. So, going back just a little bit, I'm also a cosmetologist and I've been licensed for a decade now. And anything that I do, I like to master it. So, I actually ended up mastering eyelash extensions. And so,
Okay,
as
so
I'm
don't judge mine right now because they're totally falling out.
You look great. You look great. So I had done that for 10 years, had that business, grew that business from, ground up. And so I'm thinking Empress is there. I'm like, Empress is definitely a part of it. And I'm like, but I still have this part of myself that I don't want to give up. Like, I'm definitely transitioning that business from doing the technician artist part of it day in, day out, and, transitioning into becoming a trainer and selling a course and stuff like that. So I don't want to lose that part of myself, because a lot of me connecting with women was through, lashing and, connecting with all of these spiritual abilities that I realized that I had working with my clients. So then it came to me, it was like expressions, like there are many expressions to the Empress. You have this artsy side of you, you have this coaching side of you, you have this spiritual side of you. And so I was like, that is me. And so Empress Expressions really came to be because I had to look at myself. I really had to look at myself. And in looking at myself, I also was aware that any clients that I receive in and through Empress Expressions as a soul wisdom coach for women, they're going to be reflections of me as well. So, with that, I was like, I'm tapping into and understanding all of the expressions of myself. That's exactly what I'm going to do for other women, is help them tap into their Empress self and be able to express themselves. And so that's where Empress Expressions came from. Like, just me really having to look at everything and really see all of the many expressions within myself instead of trying to keep myself boxed into something.
I love it. I love the name and I love, you know, yes, we're multiple expressions of ourselves and learning how to accept all parts of us
Yeah.
and being able to express them fully and being in an authentic, true, you're like being authentic and living your truth feels so empowering. And this is so inspiring to help women be able to step into their power, to express, to love all parts of them, be their authentic self, and bring in the spiritual, bring in the masculine, bring in the feminine, all of the different parts of us that sometimes feel a little lost, or maybe like, hey, don't forget about me over
Right.
here. And the fact that you're able to kind of cohesively bring that all together just sounds so beautiful and magical. And I feel women are just a complete unique expression, and we're so suppressed and so afraid what people think, and the judgment. And like you said, there's a mirror, right? Like who we're coaching or who we see or who we're interacting is a reflection of our own projections and our own judgments, and being able to tap into that awareness and that and starting to accept it so it can move through you is really powerful. And I just want to applaud you for creating such a inspirational type business and learning tantra. I want to learn that. I don't know anything about tantra, but it sounds like such a nice way to express your sexuality and what feels good for you. And I just think it's so beautiful. So I really wanted to applaud you on being able to create that, as well as being a mom, being in, it sounded like some sort of darkness for a little while, and being able to come out and transform into, this empress expression of yourself. And I absolutely love and adore that about you. So, thank you. And I just want you guys listening to know you can create, you can live your truth. Anybody can do it. You
Yeah.
just sometimes need a little bit of help getting
Yeah.
there and
Definitely.
pulling it out and pulling these expressions out. So thank you. You also said that you're a living soul profiler. So I want to hear what that is, and then do you use that in the Empress Expressions coaching?
Yeah, so the Living Soul guidance system is a numerology system. And so, as a certified and ordained profiler, I do use it within my coaching. And the way that it works is the Living Soul guidance system is based off of universal principle and 9 universal principles. And each universal principle is attached or is in representation of an archetype. So there's also 9 living soul archetypes that are in correlation with a universal principle. So within each archetype, you have gender energy positions, you have the core values, you have the driving pursuits, the division of self, the love styles, the elements. So each archetype embodies all of those things. So the way that it works per individual is it's based off of your birthday. So we take the numbers from your birthday, we calculate that up, and from your birthday, you receive 4 archetypes. You have a moon, which governs your subconscious and your emotions. You have your sun archetype, which governs your ambition and your ego. Then you have your earth archetype, and that governs your heart connection, your body. And then you have your living soul archetype, which is influenced by all of them, and that is your consciousness. And so we all have a profile report that includes those 4 numbers, those 4 archetypes. So, for example, I am a 5793. And so each one of those numbers are archetypes. So the way that I use that in my coaching is it really helps me understand the individual that I'm working with. It helps me understand how they're going to communicate, how I should communicate with them. It's going to help me understand, their superpowers, right? What parts of themselves do they need to really tap into to help maybe really cultivate their manifestation process, to understand their love style, right? Each archetype also has a love style. And so it can also help with understanding the compatibility to a potential partner or to a lifelong partner that you've had. The living soul is absolutely amazing and it is a game changer. I actually speak about it quite a bit on my YouTube channel. And you can also do forecasts for the year. Like we're currently in the year of 8, which is the year of the communicator, the soul communicator. And this year is about technology. We were just talking about technology and just how things are just completely blowing up right now when it comes to the web and AI and networking. So, this is a year of expansion. This is a year of getting out there, speaking about yourself, meeting new people, making the connections, the commerce, all of the things, exchanges, that today. This year is about that. And, 8 is also, if you turn it on its side, is the infinity sign. So this is a very, very expansive year. So you can forecast the year, you can forecast the month, and you can forecast the day. Within that, you also have the masculine, you have the feminine, you have the androgynous. We hear a lot about masculine and feminine energy, especially floating around on the web, but you rarely, rarely hear about androgynous energy, which is the balancing energy of the two. So, like if you have the yin and yang circle and you're looking at that, you have the black and you have the white side. Well, within each side, the black side, which is going to be the yin, you also have the white dot. Now, on the other side, you have the white and it has the black dot, which is going to be the yang. Well, it just lets you know that you can't have one without the other, right? Now, in the center of what breaks those two up or brings them together, depending on how you choose to use that or channel that energy, that is the woo wee. That is the androgynous energy. That is the balancing energy for the two. That is that position, that neutral position that one can take and then decide, okay, I'm going to take a neutral position and now I'm going to choose, do I want to lean more into my feminine or do I want to lean more into my masculine? So I am huge on talking about the androgynous energy. One, because it's in my chart quite a bit, but also because you just don't hear about it. And it's truly a power position to be in. It's where you find peace and detachment, right? So that you can make your next move. So the living soul is just, it's a beautiful, beautiful layout. I feel so, so grateful to be a part of the first wave of profilers to be certified and ordained in this system. And it's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer.
So, is there a way to like I want to know mine. Like
Yeah.
how would I have to go to a practitioner in order to learn my chart and what's in it, or are there like places to go where you can put in the like with it sounds very similar to human design in a lot of
Mhm.
ways, where you can go and you can put your birthday and there'll be kind of like a report. And obviously there's like human design readers who go deeper. Is there something similar with the living soul, like, or is it you just have to find a practitioner and then they deep dive with you?
So, luckily, because you and I are now connected, there is a link that is directly connected to me. But then also, I have a separate link where you just click on that and you go in and you put your information. And it's a super simple form. And you put your birthday in, you put your email address in, a few more, bits of information, and you would pay a $65 profile report fee. And literally, like in a couple of minutes, it's sent straight to your email address. And it's a beautiful layout. It's about 30 plus pages and it goes into detail about your energetic profile, your energetic makeup, because the universe is based off of numbers. So I over and over and over have seen just how surprised people are about how exact this report is. So that is how you would get that. You would simply click on the link, which I have at the bottom in the description box of all of my YouTube videos. I also have a link tree where people can go and click the link as well. I'm in the process of launching a website and just all the things, but there are several places right now that you can go and put your information in, pay that one time small self investment, and get your profile report. And then from there, 9 times out of 10, you're going to need some help, right? Understanding exactly what you're looking at. And so then you would get some time with me And we would just go through it all and chop it up and talk about it. And it's a lot there, but it is so eye opening. And it's a game changer, game changer
Awesome. I'll put that link in the show notes. So
for
anyone
sure.
who's listening and interested, I'm going to go and I want to check it out. I'm really curious. It sounds really cool. So something that you shared in your story, and I want to pick your brain on this. And you said in order to create and show up fully to your business as a mom, made a really hard decision to let the father take on full responsibility and full time. Just from like a very personal perspective, what was that like?
It was one of the hardest decisions I think I've ever made in my life. And it's a work that I constantly work at too, even to this day. So, like I shared, in my story, that I was an extremely hands on mother. I had my son when I was younger. I was about 20 when I had my son. And I was pretty much all he knew. I mean, we had family and his people, he had people in his life, but he was my kid. Like he was always with me, right? So, and then I had my daughter who is 4 going on 5. And when my son turned 9, I had this really great idea. I was like, I'm going to homeschool. And I always had this idea in the back of my head, even when I was pregnant with him. I was like, homeschooling sounds like something I should do. And when I hit that stage in my life, he was about 9. I pulled him out of 3rd grade. This is before the pandemic. I pulled him out, went and sat in the principal's office and filled out the withdrawal papers and answered all the questions. Like it was very, very decisive, very matter of fact, very intentional. It wasn't something that I did haphazardly. It wasn't something that I was like, oh, this is a great idea. Let's go do this. It was something that I even talked to my son about for about a year. And my husband at the time, I talked to him and I talked to his dad. And so I pulled him out. At the same time, I just found out I was pregnant with my daughter. Now my son's 9. So I'm literally like, and my daughter was a huge, huge surprise. And so I'm just like, oh. And I had already talked to my son about it or whatever. And anyways, we pull him out. I'm pregnant. So we did a year of deschooling. Then we moved into homeschooling. I had my daughter. I'm nursing, making baby food. I'm the PE coach at our homeschool co-op. I'm still running my lash business. Like when I say I was a hands-on mother, like I was growing hands to be so hands-on. Like I was doing all the things it felt like. And through it all, and looking back at it now, that idea was planted into me for a reason. And I think it's why I am where I am now. Through it all, that's when I realized I had to mother differently. I was tapped out. I was tired. I was really wrapped up in that idea of super mom without even being aware that I was wrapped up into being a super mom. It was more of like, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what is expected of you. This is what other women do. I'm seeing other homeschool mothers that have double, triple the kids that I have that have been homeschooling for forever. Seeing my mom, be a single mother with me, my grandmother, just the women in my life. And so I definitely had this, idea that had been placed before me as to how I should mother. But during that process of homeschooling is when I realized I was like, I'm going to have to do something different, completely, completely different. And it's amazing how the divine works because you connect with people along the way. And at first, you may not quite know why. And then you figure it out. And I connected with a sorority group, a spiritual sorority group, and connected with a woman who was mothering differently. And I remember when I first heard her story, I was like, that's crazy. She don't have her kids. I was like, who does that? Like, there's no way. Like, and I judged it. At first I completely judged it. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Like, and for it to work, like everyone's happy, everyone's full and satisfied. And so the more I listened to her story, the more I really started to give myself permission to even think about it, let alone, I didn't really talk about it to anybody. But just to even entertain the idea within myself, her story really helped me give myself permission to even think about it. And that was the beginning when I realized that I could think about it. And then I realized I could actually feel into it. And then when I actually gave myself permission to create that life for myself, it's just been a game changer. And so overall, like I said earlier, I went through the divorce and I was still in that. And this is around the time I was giving myself permission of even thinking about it. And then I was starting to talk about it to like my mom and my sisters, my sorority sisters. I was starting to actually vocalize this thing now, but automatically feeling shame and guilt around it, right? Just instantly. Like, what kind of mother would you be? Like, who does that? Like, what are people going to think about you? You went from homeschooling to now you're talking about the kids are going to go live with their father. Like, oh, Amber's definitely lost her shit. Like, what is going on with Amber? I was thinking all of it. I was thinking about it all. But that's what I did is I continued to think about it and I continued to feel into all of those things that I was thinking about and feeling and the shame and the guilt and really starting to do work around that and realize that this is my life, and I truly believe that my kids, they understood who they chose as their mother on a soul level. And so after doing, I'd say about a year and a half of work around that, clearing and releasing the shame and the guilt and the blame and just all the different things. Like I said, I moved to Austin and was living with my mom. I'm actually moving in a couple of days to get my own place now. We're all kind of going our own ways. So this is huge, huge milestone for me. But like I said, I moved this way with my kids, still very wrapped up in that, oh, my baby's got to go with me. I got to keep them with me, even though their fathers are pretty much on board with, taking them on full time. I was still wrapped up in that I can't do that. Like, you get a divorce and you leave your kids. It was just, I was still doing the work on myself, right? So we did a whole year here, like I said. And after that year was up and all of the work I was doing, I decided and I drove my kids to their fathers and had packed up their stuff. My son wasn't 100% happy about it. He wanted to come back and go to school here because he had made some friends here in Austin. So I had that I was dealing with too, the guilt of like, well, my baby wants to be like, you're a mother and you want to make your kids feel good and you want to do the things for them. So, yeah, I packed my kids up and took them to their fathers a year ago next month. And yeah, it's been interesting. But overall, it was one of the best decisions that I ever made for myself and my children. Because for my son, he's 14. It's time for him to be around his dad. And his dad has done so much work on himself and has just grown as an amazing person. And he's very stable. He's better than I've ever seen him. And since he's had our son, I see him lighting up and doing things that I don't even think that he would have, known that he could do if he hadn't been in so many ways granted this opportunity. Because as a woman, we kind of, as women sometimes and as mothers, we kind of want to, control things, especially when it comes to the kids, like mama knows best sort of thing. And so for me to ask this of him and let him know, hey, like, I need help. Like, I can't do this by myself. And our son is getting older and he needs his father, and his father agreed. And so that has just been a beautiful cultivation of their relationship. My son and I have always been close, but I feel like we're even closer now. Like, he calls me and talks to me about all the things and the girls, and like, we have the best relationship. Now we're learning Spanish together. Like, I have the energy that I didn't have before to show up as the mother that they actually deserve to be, to have. And then my daughter, that was a tough one because she's a little girl. But that has been great too. Her dad absolutely loves loving and taking care of her. And to see their relationship, and it really takes me back because as a young girl, my father wasn't involved in my life. And so I think it's beautiful that her dad is involved in her life, especially at this age. Now, one of the things that I do know is I create my life. I design my life the way that I choose to. And at any point in time, all of this could change. But right now, this is what works for everyone. And my daughter is happy. Matter of fact, they're both going to be here this weekend to help me pack. I mean, I don't know how much the 4-year-old is going to help, but my son's going to be here to help me pack. And it's just been this really, it's like that doing the hard thing and reaping a beautiful benefit. This works. This works for my family. This works for our family system. And everybody supports everybody. Like my children's fathers, they support me. Like, and not only because I'm the mother of their children, but they see me and they saw my vulnerability and me asking for help and saying, hey, I can't do this on my own. And like those two men do not play about me. Like we're a system. We know and understand the assignment, and the assignment is to love on these children and take care of these children. And so I feel like I said so much, but it's really been an amazing thing. And it's required tremendous devotion to my idea of how I choose to live my life. But overall, it has granted me access to the energy that I need to work on myself as an individual, to be able to show up as that soul wisdom coach for women, whether they are mothers or they're not mothers, whether they want to mother in an alternative way or they don't. I have more energy to show up as the mother, to show up as the coach. I'm not trying to do it all, but I'm doing what I can do. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just a matter of me surrendering, honestly, surrendering, not being so wrapped up. Well, who's going to do my daughter's hair? Her hair is going to be all over her head all the time. And letting that go. My daughter is fine. She's great. Like, I see her like every other week. We have a great relationship. My son and I, we like just surrendering and trusting the divine, trusting spirit to do things that I can't do. And first and foremost, being, someone letting me know, hey, you have permission to live life the way that you want to live life. And you are not required to live in a structure that doesn't feel good to you. Because ultimately, we're here to create. We're here to create our lives and to design our lives. And, as what I believe is God and goddesses on the planet, it's not always easy, right, in creating your life, because not only are you God goddess on the planet, but you're also living out your creation at the same time. So having the time and the energy and the support too, whether that's a group or a coach or whatever, to go through the ups and downs, to embrace the contrast, to understand the duality and the polarities that are at play. I have gained access to that. I've gained access to more energy, and I can decide that I'm going to put it into this, I'm going to put it into that. And I wouldn't be here if I hadn't really got real with myself and decided that, hey, at this point in time in my existence, my children living with their fathers, that's the best thing for everybody. And it has proven to be that, hands down, day in and day out. So,
wow. Talk about stepping into your power. I mean, I feel women, especially the mom guilt, the shame,
oh, yeah.
the judgment, all the burnout, the overwhelm, the to-do list, we have all of it. And it's like we're carrying a backpack with rocks in it and we just want to take the rocks out. And when you're in a place, and maybe we can come back here for a second, but like the guilt and the shame, and like you're doing this work around it and finding compassion for yourself and
Yeah.
forgiving the judgment you have about yourself, that's like really deep work. And forgiveness work is really challenging and really hard. And so, coming from this place of, I'm doing the highest good for all, everyone is happy, I'm supported, I'm thriving in my business, my kids are happy, the fathers of my children are blossoming into these beautiful souls, and the lens that you see life is just so incredible. And I just really want to applaud, because Because, yeah, I'm sure there are people listening to this podcast that might come with a judgment or might want to do something differently. But to be able to go deep and know this is what is for the highest good of all, this is, I give myself permission to create my own destiny and create my own path. I give myself permission to forgive myself, right? I think we feel if we forgive, then we're condoning or we're allowing. It's not allowing, we're accepting. And when we can accept what is, we can move through it
Yeah.
and we can get to the other side. And I mean, this is just such a power. Like you're bringing me to tears because for you to have the empowerment that you have and to know what was best and to use that inner knowing to show up in your full truth and your authentic self and be able to keep going and keep thriving and knowing your children are thriving and having more of a connection with your son than you ever did before is just showing you that you don't have to follow all the societal norms and all the expectations of what people think of you and how you're supposed to be perceived. And we get so caught up in how we're supposed to be perceived. I do too. My family dynamic is opposite than most. My husband's a stay-at-home parent. There's judgments about
Mhm.
that. There's judgments from myself, there's judgments from others. And it's like really having the compassion and fully accepting what is. It's
Yeah.
like I am fully accepting what is. And now I can move through it. And now I'm free,
Mhm.
right? What do most women want? Maybe
Freedom.
not even women, not to be gender specific, but we want to feel free
Yeah.
and to be able to live your life from a place of neutrality
Mhm.
and compassion and forgiveness and freedom and dropping into your body to allow your body to tell you and guide you and show up for you in living your dream.
Yeah.
I mean, where you are, and I know we're all a work in progress,
Oh
and
yeah.
we're all, not all, most that are listening to this podcast want to be better
Mm.
and want to grow. And this is a story that just shares it's possible. Shift your lens, look at things from the highest good of all. Everyone's happy and you're fully supported.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, that is incredible and so beautiful and so powerful. And so, if you're listening, I just want you guys to put your hands over your heart and really love yourself and be in your truth and be in your authenticity and do what you know is right. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the easy way, but showing up and knowing and following that intuition and following that gut and forgiving the judgments that you have about yourself, you are now a mirror for your son. You're a mirror for your daughter. You're a mirror for your exes. Like they are all a, an expression of you, but in your highest vibration.
Exactly.
And it is just so incredibly beautiful. And I hope that everyone listening is inspired as much as I am
Yeah.
because yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to forgive and it's a lot of judgment to heal through and healing through like you said you had a lot of shame and guilt around it. And I don't know how deep of work that looks like, but I'm sure a lot of forgiveness and tapping into your truth. So I really appreciate everything you've shared today.
And I must say that the support of my sisters from the Blue Butterfly Effect Initiation, that hands down is what literally held me up. They held my vision when I was unable to see it. When I was like, oh my God, I'm literally screwing my kids' lives up. Like, when I'm having those moments. And they held my vision up. And so support it's tremendous, especially with something like this, because my mom didn't get it at first. My grandmother didn't get it. Some of my friends didn't get it. And usually, like, those are the people that you go to for support. right? But they didn't understand. Now, of course, my mom's on board because she sees how everyone's flourishing, but it's the support. I had to have support. And I just, yeah. And it's, it's an ongoing work. It's not something now you're like, oh, I'm done with that part. My kids are still growing. I'm still very involved in their lives and stuff like that. So I still have moments where I have to do the work, but the support, hands down, has been amazing. And so that is what I like to offer through Empress Expressions to women is support, support in not only what I've shared today, but also in, honoring your inner masculine as a woman, respecting your inner masculine, feeling deeply back into your body and your emotions. I had to do all of that in order to really step into this new reality in which I live now, designing my life, believing that the best outcome is my outcome. Sometimes you get so wrapped up in the worst thing happening. And the next thing you know, you create that because you never really allow yourself to feel through it because you're afraid to, because you're like, oh my God, I'm going to create it. But you have to feel through it in order to get through it so that you can transmute it. And so that's what I want. Go ahead.
Yeah, because the very thing you're trying to avoid is the
Mhm.
very thing you're creating.
Exactly. Every
Yeah.
single time, every single
Yeah.
time. So that's what Empress Expressions is about, is supporting women tap into their soul wisdom. I feel like that was a lot of my work, was tapping back into my innate soul wisdom, like who I am and what I already know that maybe I've forgotten. So yeah. And one other thing I like to throw in there is I'm also working with plant medicines as well. So along with the Tantra, I do Hape ceremonies and microdosing with psilocybin. So those are different things that I also like to incorporate into my coaching practices.
Beautiful. So,
Yeah.
if there is one key takeaway that our listeners can get from you that they can just take aligned action starting right now, what would that be?
Trust what feels good. Yeah, trust what feels good. There's something there. If it feels good, there's something there that should be explored. So I would say trust what feels good.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, Amber, where can everybody find you? Where is a good place if they want to connect with you? Where can they find you?
So I have my YouTube channel, Empress Expressions. I believe you can also find it under Amber Nicole, but for sure, Empress Expressions. I have a link tree, which is Amber Nicole 33. I also have an Instagram, Empress Expressions, but instead of an S on the expressions, it's a Z. And then there's a Facebook page I have, which is Amber Nicole and Empress Expressions. So Facebook, IG, and YouTube. And on YouTube, I have several videos there. I have over 120 at this point. And so right now I'm actually releasing 3 videos a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So that channel really talks about like self-development, esoteric type content, manifestation, spirituality, awakening, enlightenment, just all things like, esoteric and energy and all that goodness.
I
So,
love it. I
yeah, go
love it.
support me. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. This has been just such an incredible journey with you. And I will share all of your places where they can find you in the show notes. So you guys can connect with Amber there. And I just really honor and appreciate and love you and love how far you've come. I really want to thank you for being here and sharing today.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of our journey towards redefining success and creating an abundant life. If today's episode inspired you, we have a special gift for our listeners. If you love the podcast, consider leaving us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. As a token of our gratitude, we're offering an exclusive Rise and Thrive checklist designed to help you create a thriving morning. Here's how you can claim it. Simply take a screenshot of your review and send it to us at hello@carynm.com. That's hello@CARYNM.com. Once we receive your screenshot, we'll send you the Rise and Thrive checklist straight to your inbox. Remember, your reviews help us keep the podcast going and reach more listeners who are on their path and redefining their life. So your support means the world to us. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and dare to redefine your life in extraordinary ways. This is Caryn Meininger, wishing you well and lots of love.